Hi, my name is Nguyen, and today my teammates Boya, Sasha, and I will talk about our work on the Palm Oil Mill Deforestation Tracker app in collaboration with Inclusive Development International. So first we'll discuss the problem and how our project aims to solve it. We'll give an overview of previous work, then introduce our contributions to what we call a region story, give a demo of the tracker, and then lastly discuss some ideas for future work. So first let's introduce IDI, the palm oil industry, and how these elements motivate our work. So IDI, or Inclusive Development International, partners with grassroots organizations and local communities around the world to defend their land, natural resources, and human rights against harmful investment projects. And they serve this mission through four key areas of work: conducting policy research and campaigning for human rights regulations, holding government, financial institutions, and corporate actors accountable, tracing the money and actors involved, and then developing tools that empower communities to advocate for themselves as well. And our project supports this work by extending an existing tool that traced the money and linked large corporate actors to environmental damage. We extended it to include features specifically aimed towards empowering local communities. So now let's touch a little bit on palm oil. So palm oil is an ingredient that appears in all kinds of products, from food to cosmetics to even biodiesel. And fitting with that range, some of the consumer brands that source palm oil for their products are some of the biggest multi-industry companies in the world, like Unilever and Procter & Gamble. Given this really far-reaching nature of the palm oil industry, its supply chain is of particular interest. So this supply chain includes a really large web of players, as you can see, from brokers to buyers to investors. And while these kinds of investments in the agricultural sector can spark rural development, local communities can also experience some pretty negative impacts, from local landholders being displaced to just a drainage of natural resources. And so improving the accountability throughout this chain helps to ensure that human rights are being respected and people's rights to food, water, and work aren't being compromised. And this need is especially present in the country of Indonesia, which is the world's largest producer of palm oil. From 1985 to 2018, Indonesia has seen an increase from 600,000 hectares of palm tree fields to over 12 million. And since 2000, these mills have caused 47% of the deforestation there. And so to address these concerns, a previous team set out to empower communities by building a public dashboard to inform consumers about brands' deforestation impact. And our project extended this dashboard to allow users to see deforestation impacts not only by brand, but also by regions, empowering local communities with further access to information about the regions in which they live, work, and want to protect. And so now my teammate Boya will share more about the previous work done, as well as our contributions.
Hi, I'm Boya. In this part, I will talk about the previous work on the palm oil tracker and our contributions in this quarter. Last quarter, the previous team created the first iteration of this tracker. The result was a web app that informed consumers about the palm oil supply chains of 13 brands. The app traces the chain's deforestation impact directly to consumer brands by building the user story on the mill-brand relationship. The team used the enhanced global forest chain to build the Google Earth engine to get pixel-level data. The universal mill list produced by the Global Forest Watch, and creating a UML to consumer brand match list for mill brand matching. Starting from there, this quarter we follow a similar pattern in the data sources and enhance the functionality of the web app in two ways. Fundamentally, we improve the accuracy of the mill brand matches. We also add a user story that allows web users to view palm oil activity and deforestation by region, which is referred to as a region story in the project. The region story will be especially helpful for local communities and governments to view, compare, and identify palm oil mill activities across regions. We compile three-level metadata by regions. The country-level data provide an overall view of palm oil activity and deforestation. The province data will provide more detailed information for areas under the whole picture of the country. The district-level data, as the smallest units of analysis, focus efforts and are helpful to local stakeholders. To implement the function of region story, our methodology starts with updating the latest published data from each brand. Match the mill records to brands with an improved algorithm. Calculate and aggregate the risk scores for each mill. 3 risk scores are computed for each mill. Forest loss in the past, deforestation risk in current and future, and the analysis will mainly focus on the current risk scores. Finally, we update the web app to display data by region and subregions. First step before the region level report, we work on the data and increase the accuracy of mill brand matches. To get data ready for matching, first we scrape data from PDF files and store them into a table for further analysis. Second, as the variety in data will considerably affect the accuracy of new matches, we clean up inconsistency and develop new matching algorithms to deal with the insufficient disclosure data. The previous matching took locations and names and fixed variables to calculate the similarity scores, and that may cause problems on brands with insufficient information. To deal with that, we develop an algorithm to make new brand matches in a progressive way. This is more flexible for the possible missing information in some brands. First, the strongest match is on the UML ID. If not, then there are 2 rows depending on the disclosure data. If coordinates are present, then we test name similarity for mills within a certain minimum distance. The best match based on distance and name similarity is taken as the match. If coordinates are not present, then we'll calculate each brand mill's name similarity to each UML mill. We match around 80% of mills for disclosure reports, include 2 more brands in our analysis, and add around 4,000 new mill-to-brand matches in the process of matching. Now let's move on to the web app and see how the mills look like in the region story.
Hi, my name is Sasha. Welcome to the web app demo section of the presentation. Here, I'll use the brand story to give a high-level overview of what the web app does, and then I'll go into the region story that our group built together this quarter in some detail. Clicking on this icon here on the left opens up the brand story. The map is populated with icons that represent mills. We get a list of consumer brands here on the left, and we get stats here on the right. This is the place to point out that despite 14 million average hectares of forest lost per brand, the total amount of forest lost across Indonesia is far less than 200 million, as this number includes overlap. So deforestation from a Ferrero mill can also supply Mars, and then that deforestation is counted against Mars as well. Clicking on any brand here on the left opens up information on that brand in particular, and it also filters the map down to just show mills that supply that brand. Zooming in more reveals areas of yellow, orange, and red on the map. This is the area of deforestation associated with each mill. This is the pixel partitioning process we were talking about earlier in the presentation. Clicking on any given mill opens up its name, its district, its province, and 3 metrics related to risk score. When we talk about risk score in this video, and when you see stats on it in the side panels, it's referring to the current risk score. This is also the metric used to color the icons, from yellow being lowest risk to red being highest risk. Next, we'll talk about the region story. Next, let's take a look at the region story. Clicking on this icon here at the left, again, populates the map with mill icons, and now we see a border for the boundaries of Indonesia. On the left here, we see just one country because the pipeline only exists for one country right now, but as the project continues to grow, this will get populated with more countries. Clicking on Indonesia now brings up a region summary for the entire country. So this is the true total hectares of forest loss and the remaining proportion of forest across the entire country, as well as other stats, trends over time, and an examination of the subregions, which in this case are provinces. There are 22 provinces within Indonesia. We can see here the area with the most and the least forest loss, list or a table of the provinces with the most forest loss and a distribution of risk scores. Let's continue to drill down and go now to the region with the highest proportion of its forest loss, which is Rayu. Zooming in here shows us the boundaries for this province. And we can see here it's densely populated with a lot of mills. It makes sense that this is the region with the most forest loss. We can see a high risk score. Trends over time show a long sustained period of fairly intense forest loss. And as we scroll down, now we can continue to drill down and now go to the province with the most forest loss, which is this small area with a number of high-risk mills and a high-risk score. So this is the way, this is one way a user could use the region story to kind of identify very high-risk areas and see how they compare to other regions in the country. So now let's reset the filter. Let's go back up, and for a quick comparison, now let's go to the region with the least forest loss, which is Quapaw. We can see here a small number of low-risk mills over a large area, and almost all of the forest remaining. So this is a good alternate example of kind of the other end of the spectrum. Next, we'll look at another way a user can take advantage of this region story. Finally, to finish off our demo of the region story, let's look at another way that a curious user could take advantage of the region story. Imagine a user is just scrolling across the map when they come to an area with a fairly high number of high-risk mills here in the northern part of the country. They start clicking around and see that they're looking at the province of Assay. So they bring up the region story for Assay, and they see here, despite a high number of mid to high risk mills, this area actually only has around a median risk score and a fairly high proportion of its forest remaining. They continue to click around and find a cluster of mills up here in Assay Timor, which is this small area with a number of high-risk mills, but again, only median risk score, although trends over time show the level of deforestation increasing, so that may change. This is just another way that a curious user could take advantage of the region story to better understand a particular district or province that they're looking at on the map. This concludes our demo of the web app. Next, we'll move on to an examination of future work. And to finish off the presentation, we'll talk about future work to be done on the palm oil tracker. The process to assign distinct areas of deforestation to particular mills is complicated and can still be improved with better tree loss attribution and pixel level probability estimation. There are still more screens to be added to the region story of aggregate stats and details on particular regions. There are still additional countries and brands to be added to the data pipeline, and there are more metrics to be developed for each brand. Thanks to Dustin Rosa and the 11th Hour Project, and thanks a lot for watching.